Hello and welcome back to what is the third CNC machining for beginners video, I suppose. So we've talked about an intro to CNC machining. We've talked about CNC tooling. Now we're going to talk about CNC work holding, specifically for the Nestwork C500, but also the Make-Era machines will be mentioned in this video. So what's going to come with your machine if you buy the Nestwork C500 or any Make-Era machine regarding work holding? So the Make-Era is the same. I bought the Nestwork C500, so we're going to focus on that. This is what you get for work holding. So this is a plastic-ish, I'm not really sure the material, some sort of fixture plate, and we get the typical toe clamps and this machined angled piece to square your stock up as like a reference. This is basically it. No vise, no vacuum table, no anything like that. So you've got a really low profile, really basic work holding system out of the box, but this is less than ideal. Granted, it will get you to make chips and it will hold your parts just fine, but none of these are going to be particularly precise or repeatable in a production environment, and also not as easy to set up. So let's talk about a few other options that may be better than what comes with your machine. Now remember, something I haven't mentioned in this series at all. Be prepared to spend almost the entire price of your original machine on tooling and work holding. That's just the nature of machining, nothing like 3D printing in that aspect. So some of these are pretty pricey, and some of the tooling I went over is pretty pricey. You should be aware of that up front. So the first thing I want to talk about that I've seen from Make-Era, hopefully Nestworks does the same, but this would be really easy to do on the Nestworks machine since they have additional ports for tubing and hoses in the side of the machine. Anyway, I like the fact that Make-Era has offered a vacuum table. Now granted, I don't necessarily agree with the way they executed this, the reason being it's made to hold vacuum via the dust collector, which if you know anything about vacuums versus vacuum pumps will hold 27, 28 inches of mercury, which theoretically is a holding pressure of about 14 pounds per square inch of material, whereas the dust collector will hold maybe 10 to 25% of that. This is not going to be particularly strong, and it's definitely not going to be strong in an application like this where you have most of the work area open. This is a good idea, I guess, for the way they use their factory dust collector. I would not feel comfortable cutting metal on this. I would use a vacuum pump and a specific vacuum fixture if you were going to use vacuum. I know a lot of these machines don't have a ton of Z height, so a lot of the things you're going to be doing are small plate work and things like that, where vacuum may be ideal for you. As of now, if you choose to use vacuum, I would recommend machining your own vacuum fixture and use a vacuum pump. Don't use a vacuum cleaner. So you've probably seen these next two in industry somewhere, the Screwless Vise and the Vise Copy. So we're going to talk about the Screwless Vise first. This is a small 3-inch Screwless Vise, also known as a toolmaker's vise. Anyway, hardened steel, ground really precise. This one's ground parallel and flat to 2/10. Keep in mind the hardness of this. There's no provision for soft jaws. The only thing you have to hold your round stock are these little V grooves cut in here. This does have a place. I'm not really sure it has a place with these small hobby machines though, because you're mostly going to cut aluminum. And let's be honest, you don't really need that tight of a tolerance on these machines. I don't think they're going to be able to hold it anyway. So it is a lightweight vise, as you can see. 4-inch jaw width, so basically it will hold 4x4 roughly, and the height is 2 3/4 inches. Now keep in mind, we'll discuss this later, but Z height is a limitation on these small machines. So now we're going to go to the Copy. So they make a 3-inch and a 4-inch. I just pulled the 4-inch up. The 4-inch is going to be more common, and I'll go ahead and say this. So since this is a Copy, that means the jaws are also a Copy and they meet the same spec. So You can put soft jaws in these Curt copies. They are identical to the real thing. So you can buy soft jaw blanks for a Curt vise and they will fit this vise. You can have someone make the soft jaws for a Curt vise and they'll fit this vise. Or you can use your existing soft jaws for a 4-inch Curt vise. That's pretty cool on this one, but there are a few limitations. For one, this is not as precision. Jaws are perpendicular within 0.02 in 4 inches. Parallel to the base, 0.6 in 4 inches. Not as tight as the Screwless Vise, and it's also cast iron. So you'll notice this vise is 25 pounds. If you're on one of the small machines like the Z1, you may want to check the weight capacity of your table because that machine doesn't weigh much more than 25 pounds itself. I don't think it's going to be able to throw around a vise that weighs 25 pounds. So check that. Also, the length of the 4-inch vise could be prohibitive for certain machines at almost 13 inches long. It is 4-inch width, so technically it will hold about a 4 by 5.5 piece of stock. The big two things on this, well, three things. Weight, height, over 3.5 inches tall. If you only have 6 inches of Z travel, that takes up more than half of your Z capacity on your machine. And also the length. You may want to look at the 3-inch Curt vise and just deal with the fact that you're going to have to cut your own soft jaws and all that stuff. I kind of think the Screwless Vise may take the cake between these two vises, but the further I go in this list, the more preferential they are to me. So I don't really prefer either of these two. They are an option, and if you have one of these laying around, you could use it. So let's move on to the next one. So I've seen a lot of people using these self-centering vises. In industry, this would be like a 4th and 5th axis vise because it gets your part elevated off the table so you can get the tools in for multi-axis work. But I've seen a lot of these used. This is a pretty precision and lightweight vise, which takes some of the takeaways from the Curt copy, makes them better for a small machine. They do have a couple different options on this vise, different jaws, different, clamping. The jaws clamp on the inside, the outside. This has an inside and an outside clamping function, so we're just going to show this one. So it looks like the max clamping capacity is 55 millimeters, which is a little over 2 inches. And it looks like the Z height is going to be 44 millimeters, which is somewhere around 1.5 inches. So once again, this is why people are using these for CNC routers, these small machines, because typically Z height is the limitation. So you're around 1.5 inches. This one's pretty good for the Z-axis capacity. Also, they are pretty tight tolerance, precision ground. This one says plus or minus 30 microns. I'm not really sure how accurate that is. Like I said, this is just a China vise. They are going to have hardened steel jaws with no way to mount soft jaws. Now, if you bought this one, you could mount soft jaws and bolt them into this configuration, but you're going to have to do some funky things with soft jaws. It can be done, but if you just buy this vise off the shelf like this, these hardened steel teeth, they are going to bite your part really good, but you're also going to see the marring marks from where it bites into your part. So just something to consider. I think for the price, this one's also good. Nestworks electric vise is a self-centering vise, and I think while I'm talking about this, maybe I should talk about the difference. So back on the Curt vise, this jaw does not move. So you indicate this jaw in, and you set a reference off of this jaw, like your work offset, whatever. You set it off this jaw. This jaw never moves. With the self-centering vise, your entire strategy has to be different because your work offset is going to have to be dead center of this travel because both of these jaws move inward on each other. Personally, I think it's a little easier to have a fixed jaw, but you can make it work with the self-centering vise. That's just something to bring up. Anyway, this is a self-centering vise. So this is by far the most expensive but I think the most versatile work holding solution. So this is the Saunders Machine Works Modular Vise and Fixture Plate. So if you're interested in this, they don't specifically have any info on the Nestworks C500 one yet because the machine's not in production. They don't have accurate drawings or anything like that. If you go to Saunders, well, I can show you right now. So if you go to Fixture Plates, go to Desktop and Router, go to Nestworks, click the C500, you'll notice there's a waiting list, and that's all, because they don't know what the machine's actually going to be yet. But with that being said, let's go over how this works. So first off, you're going to be about $500 in this setup. As you can see, the modular vise is $250 and the fixture plate is going to be $250. If you want to see roughly what the Nestworks looks like, look up the fixture plate for the Make Era machine. So go to Desktop, go to Make Era, and I don't know, let's pick the Carvera Air. So you're going to get this 6061 aluminum fixture plate that's going to be specific to our machine. So depending on which one you have, notice it's about $250, so we're going to be about $500 in the setup. But anyway, the reason why I think this is the best, for one, the versatility. You can set up several different work zones on your table and have them repeatable because these are precision machined with dowels and threaded holes to be repeatable. Even if you move the vise, you can put it right back up against the dowels and go again. Also, the fixture plate for the hobby version is 1/2 inch thick. And the modular vise, at its tallest, at the clamp up here, is 1 inch. So that's 1.5 inches, making it the most low profile solution on our list. Now, why is that truly important? For one, if you're on the Make Era machines, they don't have a lot of Z travel either, but the Nestworks C500 has a bigger problem. So this is a good picture of this. When the machine goes to make a tool change, the casting of the spindle with the probe built in is not very far off the table. I don't think it's 60 millimeter. This is in reference to the rotary, but it's not very far. So if you take a vise like the Vise Copy and it's already 3.5 inches off the table and it's over on this side close to the magazine, or your workpiece is over by the magazine, there's a good chance you won't be able to use the tool changer because the spindle casting can't clear the vise. So to me, you need to get your work holding as low as possible so you can get your workpiece as low as possible so this right here doesn't happen. Also, let me just be up front. I really like John Saunders. I like his products. They've been used widely in industry, and I think I'm going to go with the modular vise and the fixture plate. But, John, if you're watching, anybody from Saunders, we want to know how you're going to execute this, and here's my question. So, you have 2 options on this machine, actually 3. You can put the tool magazine along the Y-axis, or the X-axis, or no tool changer at all. Take note that the work areas are not the same dimension with the tool magazine in different orientations. This means Saunders cannot make just one fixture plate, unless they want to make the fixture plate to take up the entire work area of the table. Then, all of us are going to have to recalibrate the Z height on the tool setter because the tool setter is mounted in the magazine, and then the magazine would mount on top of the fixture plate. Not a huge deal, just something we're going to have to consider. So I would like to know, if you buy a $250 fixture plate from Saunders with the intent of your tool magazine being along the Y-axis, and then you decide to say, well, I'm going to put it along the X because I need my Y-axis travel for a different work, now you're screwed. I really want to know how they do this before I sign up. That's why I'm not signing up for the waiting list. But I am really considering, and I know it's the most expensive option, but I really think it's our best option if they can execute it properly. And honestly, it's probably best if they make it the entire size of the table. If you guys know how this is going to be done, or if anybody from Saunders is watching this video, please let me know. But this wraps it up. If you guys would like to see more work holding solutions or there's anything I missed, please let me know. And also continue to keep the ideas flowing. Work holding was a very requested video, that's why I made it. So like, subscribe, continue to let me know what you want to see, and I'll continue to make videos on this. The Nestwork C500s are starting to show up. I'm thinking mine will be late September to mid-October at this point. I know it sucks, I'm disappointed, but with all the new modifications on the machine, it's well worth it. So stick around. I will post videos the day the machine arrives. So thank you guys for watching. Like I said, comment, subscribe, let me know what you want to see next. Thank you guys for watching.